All right, algebra. We're going to study for our scatter plot line of best fit quiz. Remember, the quiz is only going to be one question, but here's 4 of them to practice. This is exactly what the quiz will look like, except just obviously just one question rather than 4. Now remember, everybody, we talked about this in class, but everybody can have a different line. Everybody can have, some different values, and that's okay. But everybody would have a very similar equation nonetheless. So I'll go through this the way I do it. Again, my line could be different than yours. So I don't want to see you just copying down the numbers, all the points that I use and all the numbers that I use, because there's no way that your line would have matched mine, because it's just kind of something that you kind of guess. You draw out your own line and it could go through different points than mine. So you would use different points than me. So I'm just here to show you the steps, but you should still use your own line, use your own points, and then your answer will be a little different than mine, but it should be very close to mine. And if it's not, then you can check with me in class and kind of see why, and see if it's still correct though, okay? So here, let's make a scatter plot for our data. We have a student who waits on tables at a restaurant, recorded the cost of meals, and the tip left by single diners. So let's put our meal cost here at the bottom, meal cost, and then we'll put tip here on the side. Okay, and now you could do it the other way around. There's really, honestly, there's nothing wrong with doing it either of those ways. But I'll have meal cost at the bottom. I'll have that be my X value and tip be my Y value. So notice meal cost is going $5, $7, $14, $18, $10. So maybe I'll go here by like, if I need to go up to like 20, then I'll go up by maybe about 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. And then for tips, I'm going from 80 cents up to about $3. So maybe let's do it by 50 cents. 50 cents, $1, $1.50, $2, $2.50, and $3. This would be $3.50 and $4, but we don't need to go that high. All right. So again, your scale could be different than mine. That's the way I decided to make my scale. You could do it differently. That's okay. So let's plot these points. $5.15 would be, and then 80-cent tip would be about here. I'm going to do this in red, so that kind of stands out a little different from my points. All right, so again, $5.15 and 80 cents. So about there. $7.86, which is about $8 and then 93 cents. So that'd be about here. $14.84 and $2.25 would be about there. $18.33, so a little past 18, and $2.85, just under 3, would be about here. And then $10.28, so a little past 10, and then $1.65, a little past $1.50, would be about there. So those are those points, roughly. So my line of best fit, remember, and I'm going to do this in green actually, so it stands out as even more different. My line of best fit, I can imagine, would probably be like this. All right, so now, again, I just made a sketch of that line, right? This is all just kind of a sketch. But now what I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for points where my line crossed. Now, again, your points could probably be different than mine. If they're all the same as mine, then I know that you just copied me, and that's not going to help you tomorrow's quiz. So make your own line. It should be slightly different than mine, but here's what you're going to look for on your line. On your line, look for places where you make a solid cross, a kind of an intersection on the grid. So for example, right here, you could see that green line kind of hit this corner of the grid pretty well. Let me put that back real quick. Try not to erase it, all of it. All right. So like right here, which is at the point 18 and 3. Again, that's a 3. It kind of looks like a 5, but that is supposed to be a 3. So 18, 3. That's one good point for me. And if I look again, there's a couple I can use. I think this one right here looks pretty good for me. That one. This one is at 12 and 2. So those are really good numbers I like. So 12 and 2. So those are my points. Now you can find different points on yours, okay? But let's write them down, whatever they are. So I'm going to write down we have 18, 3, and we have 12 and 2. So now you've written your points down, okay? Now here's what you're going to do. You're going to do the slope formula, y minus y over x minus x. So the y values are the second ones, so the 3 and the 2. I'm going to take the bigger one, well, not the bigger one. I'm going to take the first point and subtract the second point. So I'm going to do 3 minus the 2. So those are the two y values. Then I'm subtracting the 3 and the 2. And now on the bottom, I'm going to do the x minus the x. So since I did 3 minus 2, I have to do 18 minus 12. So 18 minus 12. So that's, again, this top point minus the bottom point. It doesn't really matter which way you wrote the points. As long as you're just doing the y minus the y, the x minus the x, you're good to go. You should be good to go. So what I end up with here, 3 minus 2 ends up being 1, and 18 minus 12 ends up being 6. So I have 1 over 6. Now I'm going to take my calculator, and I'm going to just divide that. 1 divided by 6. And it's a decimal. I forget which decimal it is, but we can find out real quick. It's 0.16 repeating, so I'll just say it's 0.17, just to round it. So now this value is my m value. So when I write my line of my equation of best fit, remember, I'm looking for essentially just my m value and my b value. Now, I already know that m is 0.17, but now I have to find out what the b value is. And here's how I do that. I'm going to take my slope-intercept equation, which is, let me put it over here. Y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to plug in a y value, my m value of 0.17, and an x value, and then I'll find b. I'll search for b. So remember the 2 points that I picked were 18 and 3 and 12 and 2. You could pick either one of those. So for me, I'm going to pick 12, 2. So whichever your points are, just pick one of them. I'm going to pick the point 12, 2. 12 being the x, 2 being the y. And I'm going to use this x and y in this equation over here. So the y value I'm using is 2. And the m, remember, is 0.17. And the x value I'm using is 12. So remember, I'm just using the x and y that come from that point. And the only thing I don't have is b. So remember, I have y equals mx plus b. I plugged in the y, plugged in the m, plugged in the x, but I just didn't plug in anything in for b because I don't have that yet. That's what I'm trying to find out. So now I've just got to multiply these two numbers together. So you'll multiply your numbers together. So for me, I have 0.17 times 12, which is 2.04. So I have 2 equals 2.04 plus b. And so now since this number is a positive number, I need to subtract it. So 2.04, I'm going to subtract 2.04. And that's going to leave me with negative 0.04 equal to b. So now I have my b value, which is negative 0.04. So I can make my equation. Remember, my equation is just plugging in the m and the b value into y equals mx plus b. So this would be y equals 0.17, because that's my m, x plus, or which I guess should just be in this case minus 0.04, because that's my b value. So I got my mx plus b. Again, but it's minus since it's a negative number. So that is my final answer right there. Now there's a second part to this. It's the expected tip. So now we can use the equation that we came up with and find the expected tip amount. So it's pretty simple. It's just plugging into the equation that you've made. So since my equation was, again, y equals 0.17x minus 0.04, I'm looking for the tip amount if I pay $10.50. So $10.50, remember my meal cost is my x value, so I'm plugging this into my x value, so I'll have y equals 0.17 times x, but x, again, I'm going to plug in $10.50. So remember that was what x is, minus 0.04. So now it's just grab a calculator and work this out. So if I do 0.17 times 10.50, I get 1.47. Now I need to subtract 0.04, and I get 1.43. So this all comes out to be y equals 1.43. So my tip amount should be $1.43 according to this equation. All right. And just for a fun fact, you do not have to do this. You've answered the question, but just to see and explore, at that point that you get down here, $10.50, $1.43, it should be pretty much on the line that you drew. So $10.50 would be a little after 10, and $1.43 would be down here. So it's pretty close. So, and I guess that's just because we kind of rounded some of our numbers, and that's all right. We did have to round our slope a little bit. But there's my answer to that question. So remember, we're going to do the exact same process down here. Remember, you'll have different numbers. You'll have a completely different answer at the end. Again, I don't want to see you just copy my answers, because then it doesn't tell me that you've learned it. That just tells me that you just watched this video and wrote down what I wrote. So please do what I tell you to do, but pick the numbers yourself. Okay. So here we're going to put length on the bottom. I'll put width. I'll just abbreviate W here on the side. Now length goes 100 up to like 150 up to 160-ish. So let me zoom in on this real quick. So for my length, since I'm going from essentially 100 to 150, let's do, let's see here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I'm gonna say this is 100, and then I'm gonna go by fives. So this will be 105. This one, 110 is this one. 115, 120, 125, 130, 135, 140, 100. Well, this isn't going to be big enough. Okay, let me change that. Let's go by, start at 100 again, but let's go by, I guess, tens. So we'll go second tick mark. This will be 110. This can be 120. This can be 130, 140, 150, 160. Kind of needs to look better. 170, 180. We don't need to go that high, but there we are. So now notice, like, I'm making this scale up just so I can fit my points. Your scale could be different than mine, but you can use the same scale that I use if you want. Length. But I'm just saying. And I went every 2 squares, I did my 110, 120, 130, 140, rather than every 1 square, just because we got a lot of squares there. So oh, I put the wrong numbers. Oh, hold on. My length was my 60s, not my hundreds. My width was my hundreds. So with my width, I'll go ahead and do that actually. So 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180. All right. That was for my width, not my length. So I actually had that on the wrong side. That's okay though. So my length was just from like 60 to essentially like 70 something. So let's go. We'll count. We'll start at the bottom. We'll make this, I guess, go by 2. So we'll have this 62, 64, 66, 68. And again, I'm going by 2s here. So 70, 72, 74, 76, 78. So there's my scale. I just kind of made it so it would work for me. And now we'll plot our points. So 61 and 104. So 61 would be here. 104 would be there. Let me do this in red, actually. So that's about there. 63 and 117. 63, 117 would be about there. 65 and 121. 65, 121, about there. 66, 129. 68, 136. 71, 149. About here. 72, 155. Right there. All right, so now I'll sketch my line. I'll do this in green again. Remember, your line could be slightly different than mine, slightly off. So, okay, there's my line. And so now I'm going to look on my grid for some nice, clean intersection points. So let's see. Let's see. This looks like a good one down here at 63 and 115. 63 and 115. And we have, let's see, kind of hard to tell. I think this one's a good one right there at 72 and 155, which actually is one of my points. But I think those 2 places on the grid are good places for me to use. So I'm going to use those points, 63 and 115 and 72 and 155. So your points would be slightly different than mine, and that's okay. All right, but write your points down and let's do the work. So remember, now we're just going to find our slope first, y minus y over x minus x. So the y values are the second values, so 115 minus 155. 115 minus 155. That's those. And now the x value is 63 minus 72. So 63 minus 72. So this comes out to be about 40 over negative 40 over negative 9. So let's just divide those out. Negative 40 divided by negative 9. And I get 4.44 repeating. So we'll say it's positive. So 4.44. We'll just round it to that. Remember, this is my m value, right? So that's my m value. M is equal to 444. Now we have to find b. So remember, we take our equation, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug my m value in, my 4.44. Again, your m value can be different than mine. It's okay. And one of the points. So I'm going to use the 63 and 115 point. So I'll use that x, that y. It doesn't matter which one again. But pick one of your points and use that x and use that y. So I'll use the 115 as the y, the 63 as the x, and then I'll solve for b. So I'm going to multiply those 2 numbers together first. 4.44 times 63, which is 279.72. 279.72. All right, now I'm going to subtract. Let's see, that's 115 equal to 279.72 plus b. Since it's positive, I'm going to subtract 279.72 from both sides. So 115 minus that answer is negative 164.72. That's our b value. That's equal to b. So my final equation would then be y equals 4.44x minus 164.72. So now the last part is just to use this equation to try and answer this question. So length, remember, is my x values. So I'm going to plug this length of 75 in for x. So this will be y equals 4.44 times 75 minus 164.72. So when I just calculate that, we're going to do 4.44 times 75, which is 333, and then subtract 164.72 from that, and we get y equal to 168.28 as our answer, which makes sense. Again, if we look back at our line, 75 and then 168, 75, 168 would be right about here, which is pretty close to where our line was. So that's good. That's what we should see. Our point should be close to our line at the end here. So 75 inches, 168 pounds. That matches up with our line. 75 inches all the way up, 68 pounds, 168 pounds is pretty close to where our line is. So that's just good to know. We don't have to do that, but it's just kind of a helpful confirmation. So I'm going to leave these last two here because, again, your answers are going to be different than mine regardless, but that's kind of the process for you. If you want, though, I'll help you at least if you're kind of curious on how you can set up your graph scale. I'll do that for you, but I'll let you do the rest of the work, plotting the points, getting the line, writing out the equation, and all that. So for my x values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll just number these off singularly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then for the y values, we're going kind of, where's our lowest? Our lowest is 65. Our highest is 95. So let's go from like 60 to 100. So let's just go, let's say 60, 70, 80. Oh, I'm kind of in the way of that last problem. Let me just delete that a little bit. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. I think that would work. So that's every kind of 2 squares. So that's a good scale for you, I think. You can plot the points on that. That should work. And this last one, let's see, shoe size and height. So we'll put height here, and then we'll put shoe size on this axis. Again, you're going to have to kind of ignore the other equation getting in the way there. So my shoe size, it's like my lowest is 8, my highest is 13. So let's just go by ones. That's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We'll just go 14, 15, 16 as well. So you can just number those off by 1. That should be okay. And then height, let's see, 68 is our lowest, 79 is our highest. So let's go just by ones, but let's start at like 65. So 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80. So you can make your scale like that. Kind of go by ones at the bottom, starting at 1, and then go by ones on the side, but start maybe at 65. You should be able to fit those points in there. They'll probably mostly be somewhere in this region. And that's okay. Just sketch your line through it. Pick your points as you always do. Should be good to go. If you want to make your scale different than mine, you can. If you find the better way to making your scale, then that works for you. That's okay. It's not going to really be too big a deal, but I'll leave that for you guys to do those 2 problems. All right. I'll see you in class. Good luck on the quiz. All right.